Hi, we are having technical issues today. We've started once. This is take number 2. So I hope my phone stays on this time. It's been kind of jumping off Facebook. But if it does it again, I'll come back again until I'm through. I'm out in my studio. We've been cleaning up after Christmas and putting everything where it belonged. That was a job. And my husband had kind of taken over parts of it over here working on Amazon, so I had to get him to move over into the garage part so I could have my studio back. We mentioned to you several weeks ago that we were putting moss on some topiary balls. So I want to talk to you about that today. If you don't know who I am Nancy Alexander of Ladybug Wreaths and Nancy's Inner Circle. And I love teaching you how to make wreaths, how to do fun projects. And I also love teaching the ladies in my inner circle how to sell their handmade items online. So let's talk about topiaries. Do you know what a topiary is? It is a ball made out of styrofoam in the middle. Whoops. Some of the bigger ones come in 2 pieces like this. So we've got to put them together and make the ball. This one, the ball came just like this. And I don't know if you saw, no, it didn't come just like this. It didn't come with the moss on it. I don't know if you saw the video I did. Oh, it's been maybe a month or so ago now, where we had just gotten in some fresh moss. And we wanted to cover some balls, topiary balls with it. So we had the fresh moss laying on tables out in my driveway in the sun. Because you cannot store fresh moss if there's any moisture in it. If you do, you're going to have a mold or a mildew problem. So ours is nice and dry and fluffy, and I've got a thing about fresh moss. So we've already covered this ball. We've already covered a larger ball, and Shelly and I made a trip to Hobby Lobby a little while back. We found these really cute wire containers. I've got the tall one, got the small one, and then right over here with my Easter eggs in it, I've got one that's kind of middle size, but it's bigger around. Now, the plan was to put one of these big topiary balls in it, but I really love the Easter eggs in it. So we may not put one in it. When we're through, I'm going to put this on my table for Easter. So I'm going to sit this ball back on the top of this cute container and put this big ball back on the top of this one. And I'm being very careful because I've got my drink right here. I don't want to get crumbs in it. I want to show you how we did it. First of all, I've got 2 halves of a big topiary. It's the same size as this one. Don't use too much glue when putting these together because it could interfere with what you're going to be sticking in your topiary if you want to add flowers. Sorry, the moss is making my nose itch. I'm going to squirt. Let's see. This is why I always keep 2 glue guns plugged in. Invariably, one's not going to work too well. I'm going to squirt just some glue right in the center of both of them. Ah, that's the one. These glue guns I really like. These are Sure Bonders, and they're smoking right in front of my face. These are bigger than I've used in the past. So if you're just getting started, I would be careful with the big ones because the glue really squirts out. And a glue burn and a blister is really horrible. I know those of you who have gotten those know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, that just sits right together. I'll show you something else I'm going to do to make sure it fits really tightly. I'm going to pull it back apart before my glue dries. Nose is itching. I'm going to cut the wire end off one of my picks. And I'm just going to put a couple of little picks right in the middle. This is going to help secure it so it'll stay together. But in doing it this way, I'm going to have to be real careful putting this back on here, because it would be really easy. Oops. I need about 5 hands doing this. Ah, okay. That went together really well. I've got the picks in the middle, and I've got some glue, because you can see the glue strings hanging out where I separated them a while ago. The next thing I want to do is get some of my U-shaped pins. These are florist pins. They look just like these. I used to use these a lot when I had my business downtown and I was making arrangements and topiaries, because this is what I put the moss on the top of my container with. This is what I held the moss on my topiary with. But right now I'm going to put a few all the way around this seam to make sure it stays nice and snug. It's still kind of sliding a little bit, so these are going to help hold it together. Have you started on your Easter designs yet? Your wreaths and your arrangements? Well, I know a lot of you have, because we've been having Show and Tell Tuesday today on my Facebook page. If you haven't been there yet, you definitely have got to go. Some of these ladies, I'm telling you, they have come up with such cute designs for Easter. I love them. So I'll have a link underneath this to my Facebook page if you happen to see this video somewhere besides my page. All right, so I've got, well, that one's bent. We won't use it. All right. Now, that is put together. It is sturdy. It's not going to come apart. We've got glue in the middle. We've got picks in the middle. And I've got my U-shaped floral pins all the way around the outside. So I've got to make some room up here to get my container of my moss. And I don't have any clue why I'm cleaning off my counter, because I'm fixing to cover it with moss. I've probably got 4 or 5 huge containers of moss sitting in my driveway where we dried a lot of it off and we're ready to use it. And look at this. Now, I love nature. I love using natural stuff. This stuff just makes me happy. To get some really good moss. Let's see, I'm going to sit this over here on my seat. This is a huge piece. Look at that. Scrumptious. And if you'll notice on the underside, I have purchased moss before that they did not harvest correctly, and there would be this much dirt attached to the moss. And then you can't do anywhere near what you want to do with it, because it just doesn't work. The lady who makes my wild woodsy birch wreaths for me will harvest moss for me certain times of year. Other times of year she will not, because of the snakes. So I called her just at the right time this year to go ahead and get me some moss. So I'm just going to start wrapping it up, and I'll start putting a lot of picks in there. You can just put them in there really easy as you're wrapping it. Notice I'm just pulling it up, and then this piece is not going to cover the whole ball. And I broke it in half so I wouldn't have such a huge piece to work with. And then I'll just get another smaller piece or two, and we'll have it wrapped really tightly. Now, you know, you can buy a lot of those moss covered balls in the store, and they have the really thin, tight moss on them, and those are fine. I just happen to prefer the real thing, the really thick, pretty moss. I just think whatever I'm making, it adds so much more to it. And it just helps to make that wild and woodsy look that I love so much. And I'm just going to pull that last piece pretty tight. And it had a little crease in it, so I'm just going to pull it a little tighter and put a pin. Now I might go back around the middle and put one here and there. But if you'll notice, everywhere I'm putting these, they don't show. They're going down inside the moss. The moss is kind of closing in around them. And look at that. There was actually some fern growing in this moss when I got it.
Nancy, is there a way to keep the moss green in color? Lily would like to know.
When you get really fresh moss like this, Lily, it will stay green longer than any other kind of moss will. But honestly, they're all going to turn at some time or another. These, I've done some topiaries where the moss stayed green for 2 years. And yeah, there's something else you can do. If you have this in a container that you don't mind getting damp, or if you don't have a lot of flowers and ribbon and other stuff on it, just get a spray bottle of water and mist it every now and then. And as long as you do that, it's going to last even longer, because moss is living. This is living moss. When it's outside, naturally it's going to stay green longer. And in the summertime, the spring and summer, when we're planting all my pots with my impatiens and my pansies and all the flowers that I like, my nose is still itching, I end up covering the dirt part of my pot with this moss. And since I'm watering it, when I water my plant, it actually starts growing, which is neat. Okay, that quickly, I've almost covered this whole ball. All I've got is one little spot left right here. So I'm going to wrap that little piece around. And you see, I'm not being careful, and you don't have to be. The trick is just to use enough floral pins to hold it in. There's a little lump right there, so where there's a little lump, I might put another pin, just kind of mash it in a little tighter. There it is. Looks just like this one, and we'd already done this one for you. Well, Shelly came out here one day because she was itching to get in this moss. I got a trash can right here. I can just, I said, go ahead, go in and get some done. Shelly loves doing this as much as I do. Notice I've got on my old baggy sweatshirt today because I knew what I was going to be doing. I was going to be working with moss. Now, we talked about maybe using this middle-sized container on a table with a ball on it, and then putting this larger container on your table. And I'm not going to take those eggs out of there because I just do love them. But if you wanted just 3 balls, you could put this bigger one in here in this open container, and then you'd have 3 sizes: tall, medium, small, and medium. But I decided, since I'm not going to take the eggs out of the the open container, I'm going to show you something else I do when I'm making topiaries. I'm going to move these back over. Thank you, Shelley. Now, normally in my shop, when I am making a real topiary that's going to be in someone's home for a while, I'll put styrofoam in it and I'll anchor it in really tight in the bottom and I'll cover it with moss. But so that I could show you something real quickly today, look at this. This is just a pot out of my garden. The flowers died. It's time to replant it. And Shelley's been out walking around the woods till she found me a good stick. I don't like to use sticks for my topiaries that are really perfect and straight up and down. Sometimes I like a little crook or a knot here and there, and this one's not perfect, but that's okay. That's what I wanted. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find what I think, let's see, this side looks like it would be a good bottom for my topiary. So I'm going to dig in with my fingers a little bit. And Shelley, I think I'm going to need a screwdriver over there. Do you see one in that container? And it's dry out here. We've got the door open. We already have pollen. Things are blooming. Is that the biggest one that you saw? Sorry, I'm crunching. I think I've told you before, I'm drinking these vitamin water. That's okay. Zeros. They have zero. They have some vitamins, but they don't have anything else in them. No sugar. So I throw it in the freezer for a little while. Let's see, I don't think I've got one either, but what I want to do is go ahead and start a hole with something besides this stick. And I'm just going to wiggle it around because that stick is kind of big. I'm getting all this crumbly green stuff from the styrofoam all over it, which I despise. When you're working with it, it gets between your fingers. If you have a ring on, it gets under your ring. Now, if I was going to keep this in here permanently, I would make my hole deep enough and I would fill it with hot glue. Now, I don't think I'm going to keep this as a permanent topiary. I'm just doing this to show you today how to use it. So I'm going to be taking it back apart. So I think that's in there good enough. There we go. That is the top of a topiary. Now, so that I don't have to reach really high when I get this up into my pot, I'm going to show you some things that I would do with the top part before I put it up in there. I'm just going to give you some ideas, some things that I've done in the past that I thought you might like. You've got several different options. If you want to cover your topiary with something, you can do it with ivy. And this is so easy. Just cut a piece of ivy, and there's no rhyme or reason. Just stick it in somewhere, and then just kind of bend it around. Use your florist pins again and stick that piece in. And you can stick another piece into the styrofoam. Notice I'm sticking it in pretty far as I can stick it. It's okay if they overlap. And put another U-shaped pin in on the other side. some of the little pieces that come out of the bush of the ivy. Let's see. That one's not going in there good. Use all of the pieces. You can stick one of these little short ones in there and just kind of spread it apart. So I think you get the idea of what I'm doing, and you can see how very simple it is. You can just kind of curl it around and twist it and stick it. And I would go over the entire top till it was covered with ivy. And since you've got such pretty moss in here, I would cover it a little bit thicker than I have right here, but I would let some of that moss show. You don't want it to be so tight with greenery that you don't see any moss. Now on the other side, a lot of you like boxwood, and I do too. Boy, they make these price stickers where you can't get them off, don't they? So we picked up this at Hobby Lobby too. Everything that we got that day was half price. So if I'm going to just stick some pieces into that and I'm not going to wrap them around, I'm going to go down the stem and cut everywhere there's a joint. And look at all the pieces that you can get just from one stem. So then you can start sticking it into your topiary. Now this is going to stick out a little bit further, and you'll have a bigger ball at the top. And that's okay. You have to be a little more careful this way so that when you're through and hold it up, it will be, it's easy to get to lose your circle when you're sticking things in like I'm doing right now. But just be a little more careful. Try to keep it symmetrical and just keep filling in. Just keep spreading it all the way around. Now I want to point out something to you. Where I'm cutting these stems, all stems are made this way. Well, this one's not. I was going to say, if this slides up and down like a lot of them do, after you put it in, I would just put just a little drop of glue right there so it doesn't slide off the stem. But actually, this is really good because you can see it's made on there and it's not going to slide off. So, if you want a topiary with boxwood, that's how you do it, and you would cover the entire thing. And that's just, it is elegant, it's simplistic, and you don't need a whole lot of stuff in it. I hate to take these out, but I'm going to take them out because I'm going to show you some other things that you can do. Now you can cover these with flowers too. I'm not a real big fan of covering a whole ball, topiary ball with flowers, but I do put them in the bottom sometimes. So we're going to switch and we're going to put this in my pot. Now after you've gotten these in, if you want to put a little shot of glue on the tip, you can, but honestly, once you get it in your container, I don't think you're going to be rough enough with it that the stuff is going to start coming out. So let me slide my pot back over here. I need to just move all this out of the way, don't I? And I've still got some of those pins stuck in all that. Don't stick your hands. So now, if I had styrofoam in here, Let's see, I don't have that quite in the center. It's hard to get it sturdy right in the center when this is wet dirt. I'll have to kind of mash it in together. I really get my hands nice and dirty. I'm playing in the dirt today, y'all. Does that look straight, Shelly?
Yeah.
Okay.
A little this way.
A little this way?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There you go.
Now, if this is styrofoam, I would have made my hole with a big screwdriver. I would have made sure it was in the right place. I would have tried my stick first to make sure it stayed. And I would have taken the stick back out, just filled it with glue. And sometimes I would wait several hours before I would come back and work with a topiary after I'd put so much glue in it. Okay, now I've got some more ivy bushes here. This is something that's really interesting. I love this ivy. This one came from my favorite vendor years ago. If you want to know who my favorite vendor is, I've written a book called The Secret Vendor List. It's now called My Secret Vendors. If you're a member of the Inner Circle, you get it free. It's got over 500 pages of people that I've ordered from and products that I've liked. And you know, when you're just getting started and starting out, if you're not careful, you can really be taken advantage of when you're starting to work with a new vendor. I know. I definitely have been many times. I'm just opening this up really quickly, and as you can see, it looks like ivy from outside. It's even got some of the little curly cues in it. Look at those little curls. I love that. Now, what I usually do is go ahead and stick, I'm not going to even cut it yet. I'm going to stick this down in the base right beside my topiary. Now this is a little bit lower. If I had moss, I would probably, I didn't know that had berries. Oh, it doesn't. If I had moss, it would be up a little bit higher. One thing I want to do, if I was using this one, I probably would have put some of this in the top of it too. And then wrap it around. Make sure you turn it so that your leaves are sticking toward the outside. And then when you get up here, use one of these florist pins to stick it in. And that's one thing I want to point out. If you decide you want a topiary that's full of boxwood or ivy, when you fill in all right here, don't forget these underneath spots, because that's one of the main places that my students used to leave out. But then if you want to sit this up on a mantle, or if you want to show it off somewhere, it's going to look really funny without that. It's going to look like you just didn't finish. So I'm spreading this out. I'm going to cut off one of these long pieces on this side, and I'm going to put it on a pick, and I'm going to bring it over to the other side of my container. Now these are really long 6-inch picks with the wire on them. And I wire it and then I wrap it in tape, but I think, oh, there's my tape. I was going to say my tape disappeared, but it's right here. Springtime is fun. Easter is fun. I love all these pretty colors showing up this time of year. I walked around the yard this morning and took some pictures of, we've already got flowers blooming. I love it. Okay, I'm going to stick this on this side. And notice I just didn't have to cut up the entire bunch of ivy. I'm going to take a couple of pieces from one side and I'm going to put it in on the other side and have it flowing out of my pot. Or if it's coming out too long, you can trim it off a little bit, not have it quite as long. So I think all I'm going to have to cut is maybe 2 pieces and have it come out the other side of this container. And I can't see what y'all see from the front. Now I want you to imagine that this would already have some ivy up covering the ball at the top. I'm not going to take the time to put the tape right now. And I'm going to stick this in right here. Brush off all my dirt. Now, that is beautiful and it's natural. I just love doing these. Honestly, if you have an outdoor pot with some dirt in it that you don't think you want to plant flowers in this year, find you some ivy that looks real like this. Put your moss on the top, put some of the ivy in there, and go out there every now and then and spray it with a spray bottle just to keep it damp. Okay, can you see it better right here? Yeah. Okay. I'm getting out of the picture. Now, while we've got this here, I want to show you something else too. Sometimes I'll add a bow to my topiary. I have put 2 bows up underneath. I have put one right here before, just have it come down. I think right for this one, I'm just going to use some some natural burlap with a green dot on it. And notice I'm using a number 9. I'm not using a wide number 40. I rarely ever use a wide number 40 ribbon unless it's at Christmas, and then I use it a lot. But I like being able to work with the number 9 ribbon. I can shape my loops better. It doesn't look like it's in such a big blob like it does sometimes. Now, y'all have seen me making bows a lot of times, so I'm not going to go really slow and go through all the steps, but I am going to make it, and I need a pipe cleaner. Let's see. Well, I got all these drawers right here, and there they are. Thank you. Okie dokie, that's good. Now my bows are different than everybody else's. I make a bow tie, which is 2 loops, exactly alike. And then I make an X, which is 4 loops, all the same length, going in the same direction. Now I've got all kind of videos that show you how to make my bows, and I go much slower. And then I'm going to make another bow tie. And I think that's all of the loops that this one needs. This is really pretty stiff ribbon. Now, if I was making this to go in a wreath, I would make my loop to come out the top. But it's not going in a wreath, and I kind of want it to wrap around this stick for my topiary. So I'm not going to make the top loop. And I always tie them with pipe cleaners. The pollen's getting Shelly too. She had to run and sneeze. We've all been sneezing today. tie it very, very tightly, as tightly as you can possibly hold it. Twist it, pull it. Now, if you'll notice the way I make my bows, they're shaped when I'm through. I'm not having to do much at all with that one. I'll straighten it up a little bit more. Now I'm going to move some of this ivy kind of around so it comes out of the bow. And we'll tie it to my stick in the middle. And I'm going to pull, let's see, I want you to be able to see it, but I've got to get my hands on it a little bit closer too. Now I made these, I left these a little too long because I wasn't sure exactly how long I wanted to leave them. We'll cut that one right there. Now you can actually pull one of them up and you can wrap it up the topiary a little bit too. I don't know if I like that as much, but I'm just giving you some options. Now let me turn it around a minute. I'll do some twisting and some pulling. And
Pamela asked, can we use a green floral styrofoam that gets wet, or do we just use the white styrofoam ball? What's best? Please and thank you.
No, you don't want to use the green. It's called Oasis. When Oasis is wet, it gets really soft and really crumbly. And if you put, I've got mine leaning now. If you put something like this, a big stick up in the center of a ball of Oasis, it's not going to last. And by the time you work with it and put your moss on it and put ivy and other greens in it, it's going to be really crumbly. So you just need the real styrofoam for this. You want something that's going to be sturdy. Okay, so there it is with a bow. Honestly, I like it more all green and natural, but I wanted you to see what you can do with a bow and your topiary. So I'm going to take that back off, and I'm going to give you another idea. That is very pretty ribbon. I love that ribbon. Now, grass. Y'all know I can't do anything without grass, don't you? Honestly, the one I like the best is the one I've only got one piece of. I don't remember where I've got it, but I like the little airy stuff at the end. You can have some of this grass. It'd have to be on a pick because my dirt's down too low. You can have some of this grass growing right up beside the base of your ball. Some of these are just, I used a darker, really natural green right here. And some of these grasses, although I use all of them and I love this shade, a little bit of it would look okay in there, but I don't want it to get too bright. This one is too bright, so I'm not going to use it at all. Now, for a while, people loved, shoot, the word left me, topiaries with eucalyptus. And I made a lot of those for customers. And it was fresh eucalyptus. And after a while, I suddenly became very allergic to eucalyptus, the fresh anyway. because I was using fresh for that. So I just had to stop using it.
Lynn wants to know what would be the best kind of lights to light it up.
Light?
I guess like little.
Are you wanting to put a spotlight on it, Lynn? I don't know what you mean.
Little like Christmas tree lights.
Oh, you're wanting some lights inside it? I mean, wrapped around it?
Yeah.
I don't know which ones I would get. I would get some very dainty ones, and I would get some that don't have a white stem, white wire.
There's the copper kind that you can put the batteries in.
Yeah, I've got some of those in the house. They're what kind of lights are those? They're really bright, but they're little tiny lights. You can actually, I think the stem that I've got that I pull out at Christmas looks green. So you could probably, that's a good idea. You could probably wrap it around the outside of your moss and pin it in with the floral pins. I don't think it's going to show if you can find the right color wire that goes around it. So if you add grass, you can put some of the taller ones. You can put a real taller one up here like I just did. I don't normally put the grass out of the top. I personally like the top to be more rounded no matter what I'm doing to it. Whether I'm putting this kind of moss around it and wrapping it around and pinning it, or whether I'm using the boxwood and sticking it in all the way around. Those are the two different options of adding your moss or your greens, is all the little stems, which take a while to fill in all the way around, or to get some of the long pieces like this and lay it around it and just put your floral pins here and there. Okay, what you think? I like it. And I told you I wasn't going to take it back apart because, I was going to take it back apart because I was going to use this on my table at Easter. But I've changed my mind. This may sit in my house just like this for a while. I like just the green ball. It would be pretty sitting with those nearby. It would be pretty sitting with this container of some of these balls for Easter. Now this pot is probably a little bit too big. If I was going to do that, if I had planned to do that, I would have gotten one of my rustic clay pots from outside that have aged and they've got some of the green moss growing on them, which I love. I actually used to, and you can do this too, I actually used to go outside and get some real green moss, put it in my blender with some buttermilk, and blend it all up, and then I would put it, kind of get a brush and paint it around some of my pots. I would put it between our stepping stones in my garden, and it would start growing.
Carol wants to know, do you have to keep the moss damp to retain its color?
Yeah, it's eventually going to turn. But now if you're covering it with ivy or with there's something sticking me right here, or with boxwood, if you're covering it pretty thickly, I wouldn't worry about it. That's just the nature of moss. If it's in something like this where I didn't mind it getting damp, I would spray it, just lightly mist it, maybe once every 3 or 4 weeks. It'll last longer.
Libby says she loves it. How heavy is the pot that you're using?
Well, it is so heavy, Livy, that I asked Shelley to put it on the counter for me because I knew it would hurt my back. And you can see I would have to strain to pick it up. I've got a bigger pot like this too in the blue that I love. I bought those at a cute little garden center in Atlanta. And about once a year, we'll go to some garden centers and I'll buy me maybe 1 or 2 really nice, more expensive pots to mix in with my clay pots, because I just love stuff in my garden. What about y'all? Do you have a garden? Do you love filling your pots outside in the spring and in the summer? I have done something like this before where I just still had dirt in a pot and I put some artificial stuff in it. And you can do the same thing. And you don't have to have a heavy pot like this. They're making so many pots now that are the lightweight. They're not plastic, but I don't know what they're made out of, but they look really heavy, but then when you pick them up, they're so lightweight. Now, if you used one like that, I would put some gravel down in the bottom to weight it. I've got gravel in the bottom of this because I do that in all of my pots that I keep outside.
Where did you find your ribbon?
This ribbon is some that I sell, actually. I've started getting in some of the ribbon that I'm going to be selling. And this is one of the rolls. Now, I can't tell you right this moment how much it is. I've got some more ribbon coming in. This is really pretty, and as you can tell, when I shape it, it stays that way. And the other ribbon that I had out here, where did I put it? Oh, this one. This one's really pretty too. I've got some real pretty spring ribbons coming in that I think you'll like. And we'll do another ribbon sale out here in my studio one day. I'll show you each one, unroll it. A lot of times you can't get your hands on them to feel them, so I'll do it for you. I love going to market. I love going into all of the wholesalers, but they all know I'm going to be taking the plastic off the ribbon and I'm going to be pulling it and curling it to see if I like it. And that's been okay with them, and I'm glad, because I wouldn't buy it if I didn't. Okay, I have loved talking to you today and talking to you about topiaries and showing you what I'm going to do for Easter. And when we get these back inside and I get my table fixed, I'll probably put some pretty table runner or either a placemat under some of this on my table. And I'll take a picture of it and show it to you. And if you've got things that you're fixing for your table for Easter, I would love for you to show me some photos. Post them right down below the video. And if you want some more of my free videos, or if you want some of the videos I've always charged for, you can get them free inside my inner circle. I would love for you to join us there. We have a lot of ladies who are doing a lot of creative things, and they're learning how to sell online. So you just go to www.nancy'sinnercircle.com. and we'll be there waiting for you. We've got an awesome Facebook group, and we talk back and forth in there and we have a lot of fun. So I will see you later. Thanks for joining me. Bye.